Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our latest Sugar Smart webinar. This is Vera Zakharov. I am the Sugar Smart campaign coordinator, and this is the latest in our series of Sustainable Food Cities webinars, which is a chance to learn more about our campaigns and projects and ways that you can use these campaigns to help you in your work on promoting and supporting a healthy and sustainable food system in your local area. So without further ado, we will start. You can see the agenda on the screen, but I will start in on the housekeeping. After that, there will be a brief introduction to Sustainable Food Cities and an update on the Sugar Smart campaign, especially for those of you that might not be familiar with one or the other. And after that, I will pass on the mic to our first presenter, who will be Dr. Claire Pettinger from Sugar Smart Plymouth. After that, we'll have a brief Q&A, and then we will hear from our second presenters, the Fizz Free February team at the Southwark Council. And then we'll have another short Q&A towards the end. So again, thank you so much for joining. So we'll start with an overview of Sugar Smart and Sustainable Food Cities. But before I go into that, I need to mention a couple of things, just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. We will be sharing the recording link with everyone after this webinar, along with the presentations and the question and answer session. So those will be emailed and will be also available on the Sustainable Food Cities website in the next couple of weeks. You should be in listen-only mode, so you won't be able to speak, but you are able to use the chat section to send in any questions that you have. And if we don't have time to answer all of the questions, that's okay, because we will be capturing and recording them, and we will be asking our presenters to supply their answers. And that, again, will be shared with all of the attendees after the webinar. If you're experiencing any technical issues, do try to log out and join the webinar again. It is best to use Firefox and Chrome. Alternatively, you can send us a message using the attendee chat. My colleague Fran is on hand to help out with that. So we can try to support you to some extent, but you can always try joining by phone. And at the top of the chat thread, you will see there's a number and a PIN code that you can call in. So you have a few other options. And if for any reason it completely fails, don't worry, you'll still get the recording after today's session. So without further ado, I want to give a brief overview of the Sugar Smart campaign and Sustainable Food Cities. Sugar Smart is a campaign of the charity Sustain, helping local areas across the UK to tackle excessive sugar consumption. We work with councils, businesses, institutions, and other sectors to help reduce the overconsumption of sugar in their local areas. Sugar Smart supports local campaigns to take a cross-sector approach to transform their food environment and raise public awareness of the impacts of consuming too much sugar. Whilst how much sugar we consume is ultimately down to individuals, the role of the environment we live in, from advertising and promotions through to proliferations of sugary options, is hugely influential. A vital part of Sugar Smart UK is encouraging a multi-sector approach with local businesses, organizations, residents, and other settings involved. We know there is no one solution to obesity and poor diet, and only a multi-pronged approach involving everyone will lead to long-term change. And a little bit more about the charity Sustain. Sustain advocates food and agriculture policies and practices that enhance the health and welfare of people and animals, improve the working and living environment, promote equity, and enrich society and culture. You can learn more at www.sustainweb.org. And as many of you know, Sugar Smart is one of the campaigns of the Sustainable Food Cities Network. SFC is a movement of 51 towns, cities, boroughs, and counties that share the same approach for transforming food and food culture. The Sustainable Food Cities approach is about establishing an effective cross-sector food partnerships of key stakeholders such as public agencies, businesses, NGOs, academics, incorporating healthy and sustainable food into local policy and delivering a food strategy to tackle key food challenges in the local area. So sustainable food cities, the approach is about establishing an effective cross-sector food partnership of key stakeholders, as I mentioned, and incorporating healthy and sustainable food into local policy, strategy, and planning. It's also about developing and delivering a food strategy and action plan to tackle key food challenges in the local area. So the SFC approach is a tried and tested model for driving positive change. So of course, some of you are already part of the SFC network. Many of you are even SFC award holders. So depending on where you are in your journey, this is just a reminder that the SFC campaigns are a fantastic way to engage further cross-sector working in your local area and develop your work around healthy, sustainable, and fair food. So do think of campaigns such as Sugar Smart, but also some of the methods, some of the approaches and projects that we'll be talking about today as a way to build some more of those bridges and develop your work in your local area. So we covered that. So just a quick overview of the 6 key issues that SFC focuses on. It's about promoting healthy and sustainable food to the public. It's about tackling food poverty and increasing access to affordable, healthy food. It's also about building community food knowledge, skills, resources, and projects, promoting a vibrant and diverse sustainable food economy, transforming catering and food procurement, and reducing waste and the ecological footprint of the food system. And here's just a kind of brief example of some of the initiatives that form part of the Sustainable Food Cities Network, and example some of the resources. So it's definitely worth visiting the SFC website. And just a brief mention of the award structure. The award structure of SFC is designed to recognize and celebrate the success of those places taking a joined-up holistic approach to food and that are achieving significant positive change on a range of the key food issues that we've just mentioned. So, and just a little brief mention of some of the other campaigns and projects within doing wonderful work within the wider SFC network. Of course, we have Veg Cities, which is currently the feature campaign of SFC. It's led by the food and farming charity Sustain in partnership with the wider Peas Please initiative. The aim of Veg Cities is to increase availability and consumption of vegetables locally. Food partnerships and or local authorities can achieve this by working with different local businesses, organizations, from convenience stores to schools and local markets through to different actions promoting vegetables and supporting local business and transforming catering and procurement. We'll share the links for that after the webinar. Other campaigns and projects to check out is Sustainable Fish Cities, aiming to make it normal to see sustainable fish on menus across the UK. Fish Cities does this by asking the biggest fish-serving businesses across the city to sign a simple but meaningful pledge to serve only verifiably sustainable seafood. When a city gathers enough pledges, they can be crowned a sustainable fish city, and these pledges urge and encourage changes up the supply chain. Food Power is another project that evolved from a featured campaign within the SFC network. Food Power supports alliances to tackle the root causes of food poverty, to give voice to people experiencing food poverty, and to evaluate and share what works well. The program supports local food poverty alliances, learning and sharing good practice, involving experts by experience, and evidencing what works at the local level. Just a brief mention of different ways to get involved. There's you can join the SFC newsletter and email group. There will be links after this webinar where to do that. You can your area can become an SFC member, so you can certainly get in touch and find out a little bit more. A really great place to start is there's a guidance document called Getting the Basics Right to get you a sense of what SFC membership involves. There's, of course, the award structure for existing SFC members that are doing fantastic work across a number of those 6 key areas. So For more information, do get in touch with Leon Ballin, but in the first instance, definitely check out the SFC website and learn a little bit more through the Getting the Basics Right guide. So on to SugarSmart. This is just to give you guys a brief update, but also just for those of you who are very new to the SugarSmart campaign, this is a nice little overview. SugarSmart focuses on action areas across 10 sectors to tackle excessive sugar consumption. This you can see on your screen: primary and early years, secondary schools, universities and higher education, healthcare settings and hospitals, workplaces, which also includes councils as workplaces. It's always important to remember that. Sports and leisure, and that includes sports clubs like football clubs, as well as leisure settings. Restaurants and caterers. This includes public sector catering as well as cafes and other eateries. Retail, tourism and venues such as libraries, and of course community groups and organizations. So there's been a huge interest up and down the country to take on this approach, to have a coordinated cross-sector campaign engaging these different sectors that were just mentioned. And up to as of November of 2018, we have 29 campaigns that have now officially launched and are doing wonderful work locally, engaging a variety of sectors within their communities. There are a number of other campaigns that are in their development stages. So certainly the network encompasses well more than that. So probably close to 60 areas doing some level of SugarSmart work. And as part of this, of course, I mentioned engaging sectors. So there's the real crux of the campaign is encouraging organizations, settings, and businesses to get on board and go SugarSmart, to pledge to take actions to reduce sugar consumption within their communities. And we now have over 1,300 sector participants across these different sectors taking action. Within the time period of 2017 to 2018, there were 16 sustainable food cities that received grants to their local food partnerships to run their SugarSmart campaigns. And from these wonderful grant-funded campaigns, we have a fantastic array of locally developed resources that are now being shared across the wider network. So a brief update on what's been happening over the past year and a half and months. So a number of campaigns have developed a variety of approaches tailored to their local needs and priorities. Many have been focusing on community engagement and education, particularly in areas of high deprivation, while others focused on work with local providers to improve their food on offer. Many have also focused on changing policies within their remit, and others recruited partners such as universities, businesses that they hadn't worked with before. So of course, just about all campaigns take a mixture of these different approaches. So it's not just about one or the other, it's about bringing all this together under the umbrella of one local SugarSmart campaign. A few more wonderful and inspiring updates. So this is a picture from Bristol. So Bristol Water joined the SugarSmart Bristol campaign, and they have been touring free water bar pop-up stands at popular events to help residents consume less sugar and also waste less plastic by bringing their refillable bottles and enjoying free water while they're enjoying their events. A few other examples. So this is a couple of pictures from some wonderful SugarSmart schools in Scotland. Churnside Primary in Glasgow ran a SugarSmart festive fundraiser fair where they've worked with the Parent and Teacher Association and children to offer snacks and treats that contained little to no free sugar, showing that festive events and fundraisers don't have to rely on sugar to raise money and give families a nice festive time. Students at Heath Ryburn Primary in Aberdeen actually led on designing a local Ditch the Fizz campaign which aimed at supporting children, teachers, and parents to reduce their sugary drink consumption. And Caterlink worked with local Sugar Smart campaigns in Islington, Hackney, and Isle of Wight to pilot a sugar reduction, an audit and a sugar reduction bit of work within its school meals to reduce the sugar content to an average of 4.5 grams of sugar per school meal, which they then rolled out to other contracts across the remit. Other wonderful examples that I think are really worth sharing that are inspiring is Sugar Smart campaigns in Bristol, Brighton, and Hove, and Cornwall have been embedding Sugar Smart registration and sugar reduction actions into their local award schemes for local food businesses and workplaces. And most recently, Cornwall has now added Sugar Smart participation into their Healthy Schools network as well. So this is a fantastic way to get not just to engage these settings in reducing sugar, but actually getting them thinking about what they're going to do in terms of their food provision, in terms of their regular activities around engaging their communities on healthy eating. And most recently, as many of you will know, we wrote another open letter to Coca-Cola about their holiday truck tour and their unhealthy marketing practices around the holidays aimed at children. And this, of course, we did this in 2017 as well. Local campaigns within the Sustainable Food Cities Network, such as Carlisle, took not only signed the letter but took local action. So Carlisle debated whether to re-invite Coca-Cola to their city center, and they decided not to invite them again in 2018. A number of other local campaigns have written to the hosts of the Coca-Cola trucks. So as a result of it, there's a growing movement of local areas, particularly public health teams and community organizations, speaking out against these types of marketing practices that really undo the great work promoting healthy eating that they're doing. So we resubmitted an open letter, again, reinforcing our calls to the company to change their marketing practices. And this past year, it was signed by 86 public health campaigners, local authorities, and organizations, and this included 10 of the 24 cities that were visited by the tour in 2018. And so just a brief reminder, the real centerpiece of Sugar Smart is the website, which is where you can register either to run a local area-wide campaign or to go Sugar Smart as a setting or organization. This is also where you can plan which actions you're going to be taking, access resources. So just a reminder that if you are interested in running a local Sugar Smart campaign, you can click on Run a Campaign, and this is typically run by local authorities or local food partnership organizations. So organizations that have that cross-sector, these cross-sector relationships where they can engage other settings, businesses and organizations to take part. If you're part of an organization that wants to take part, you can go Sugar Smart. And if you're an individual, you can click on the volunteer button and either sign up to receive our newsletter or actually volunteer with your local sugar reduction campaign. And this is just a little overview. So we will be hearing about Fizz Free February today, but also the Ambassadors Program. And as you can see, this is a snapshot of what you see as an organization or setting taking part. So here, this is where you can choose actions. This is where you can update the impact of your actions, so the number of people involved or the number of points of sale. And this is also where you can access your resources. And within each action, there are a number of resources that are tied into it, so to help you along. So you don't have to start anything from scratch. You can see what other areas, what other organizations have done to do this bit of work. And as I mentioned, of course, individuals and campaign supporters can get involved as well. So if you're an individual joining us today or listening in, there's definitely a way for you to be part of the movement as well. So, so again, my name is Vera, and I also want to mention that from mid-February, the campaign, the Sugar Smart campaign coordinator maternity cover will be Fran Bernhardt, who is here with us today supporting people. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to know more. And so without further ado, I will be passing on the mic to Claire from Plymouth.
Right, I'll just wait for my slides to load.
Thank you, Claire.
Everyone can hear me. Hi, everyone. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. So my name's Claire Pettinger. Just to give you a bit of background about me, I'm a lecturer at the University of Plymouth. I lecture in public health nutrition, but I'm also an active member of the Food Plymouth Partnership. But I'm here today to talk about the Sugar Smart Devon Ambassador Programme, which in fact involved Plymouth Sugar Smart campaign and Exeter Sugar Smart campaign, and rolling those two campaigns across Devon. I acknowledge that there are some of the Plymouth and Exeter people on the call, because I did have a little nosy at who's actually on. So it's good to see everyone. So just to give you a little bit of insight, Devon's quite an interesting place because in fact Plymouth is a unitary authority in terms of council, and Exeter and Devon run under kind of Devon County Council. So what we've done is we've kind of joined forces, really, as it were, to run a Devon-wide Sugar Smart Ambassador Programme, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Obviously, because I led the Plymouth campaign, I'm going to be focusing more on Plymouth, but I also have some data and insight from the Exeter campaign to share with you as well. Hold on, I've clicked. Right. So here's an outline of what I'm going to be covering. It will be a whistle-stop tour, but as Vera's already said, there are resources. There's a lot of ambassador resources that will be available for you to look at and consult. If anybody's interested in running an ambassador programme as part of their own campaign, then please do get in touch. It was a really interesting way of doing things, and we've found it an enormous learning experience. So I'm going to be covering a little bit of why we decided to take the approach, an overview of the training and how that was developed, success of the programmes, resources for ambassadors, support for ambassadors, and also some of the challenges, because it wasn't challenge-free. So to start with, why we decided to take this approach. Now, I actually, when I wrote the bid, we won some Sugar Smart funding in order to run our campaign, and I actually wrote this kind of train the trainer style ambassador programme into our bid because I felt that, well, I do a lot of work around community engagement, and I just felt that train the trainer style programme is a really good way, given the Sugar Smart messaging is quite simple, it's a really useful way of cascading the messages out far and wide and using that real kind of bottom up co-production philosophy to, cascading those messages. So this idea of train the trainer and getting people trained in order to spread that word is a really powerful way of getting our Sugar Smart messaging across there. So this approach allowed us to spread the Sugar Smart word, obviously in line with the local campaign aims. Exeter and Plymouth had similar aims, but they weren't exactly the same. To maintain consistent Sugar Smart messaging and making sure that they're evidence-based. I mean, obviously there's a lot of messages out there. The media are responsible for quite often a lot of messaging around sugar that is perhaps confusing for the public. So it's kind of trying to bust some of the myths and getting to the root of some of that evidence, aligning priorities for the local and regional food networks. And also across the Southwest, we are trying to establish a kind of a Southwest standardised evaluation framework for all the various Sugar Smart campaigns that ran. So it allowed us to do things consistently. And this was all in our philosophy of getting the message out there. Now, the Sugar Smart ambassador role, the Sugar Smart, as Vera's already very eloquently said, this is really a kind of social movement to create healthier food environments. And what we stated quite clearly, all the ambassadors that we trained, and I'll say a bit more about who they were, all came from different backgrounds with different experience, different training. So it was very much over to the ambassadors to decide what they felt they were able to do, and using their initiative and following their own relevant interests in order to do what they felt able to do. And we kind of promoted the idea that, any activity, however small, to promote Sugar Smart is extremely useful. I mean, that could be as simple as putting a banner up and chatting to people. It could be part of a larger event, or it could be more bespoke activities in schools or universities or whatever, depending on the particular setting. And it was very clear that what we needed to do was obviously align anything that we were doing as part of the training to meet the local campaign targets. And we were very clear that, the core campaign principles, the national campaign, we needed to be sure that our ambassadors were clear on what the messaging were and what their own limitations were. So to move on to an overview of the training now, Ruby and Twistle, who originally ran the Exeter campaign, and myself got heads together to create a kind of standardised trainer facility toolkit handbook, and this is available for you to have a look at if Vera's going to make it available if anyone's interested. And that gave us a kind of standard framework to include all the relevant information that we felt was important to be including, which also meant that if anybody else wanted to actually carry out the training and they were comfortable and confident to do so, then that could be lifted and taken, and all the messaging was according to requirements, etc. So what we did was it took quite a long time to develop this resource, but we worked through to agree on the content, but also to consider the needs to tailor according to our each campaign's kind of specific priorities and aims, etc., and the settings that each of the different campaigns were actually trying to target. But the main things that we covered in this training were, your background, your sugar and health relating to obesity, oral health, glycemic load, current intakes, recommended intakes. Most information is available on the Sugar Smart kind of key website anyway, but we obviously tailored that. We were lucky in that we both had very strong nutrition training backgrounds, so we felt very confident delivering that. And I think you have to be careful that you're kind of practicing and delivering according to your own kind of set of skills. We also covered kind of those sugar hotspots. So depending on the setting that the ambassador was maybe involved in, there are specific things that are issues in relation to sugar. Like, for example, in the workplace, there would be canteens or vending machines or that sort of thing. So we would try and, highlight and tailor according to the needs of the ambassadors that were actually in the specific training. Tips for cutting down sugar, local campaign targets, communicating messages, ambassador roles, activities, etc. The key thing we wanted to achieve was that this was a workshop which would last about 2 or 2.5 hours, that was interactive, that got the attendees actually engaging, having fun, sharing knowledge, and they were the experts by experience. So it was very much this kind of philosophy of co-production. And here, very quickly, I don't have much time, but it's an example activity around communicating messages, just to show that interactive aspect, whereby we got our attendee ambassadors to get into small groups and thinking about their own setting or workplace, and thinking about how they might be able to take action and support their workplace to become more sugar smart. So they were actually coming up with their own ideas and thinking about how they might communicate these, who they might speak to, what the challenges might be, etc. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the Plymouth context. I don't have much time to give a lot of background, but I'm going to say a little bit about the Plymouth campaign, and then I'll say a little bit about the Exeter campaign. But Plymouth were okay, I'm being told I'm fine. Okay, thanks. I'm getting little messages, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I've got plenty of time. Okay. So the aims of the Plymouth campaign, as I've already said, was to run a kind of structured train the trainer ambassador program. That was our key aim. But it was very much looking at, raising awareness of sugar, supporting organisations and sectors to create this kind of sugar smart mindset, and also considering how local organisations might pledge to become more sugar smart. And also another kind of objective of ours was it's very much about cross-sector partnership working. So our project in Plymouth sat within with Food Plymouth as a kind of our Food Plymouth partnership as a central connecting platform to kind of make it happen. So we already had a very strong network in place. And most of the organisations that are already signed up to Food Plymouth were very, very keen and interested to get involved. So we already had a very strong platform on which to base our campaign. We created local resources relating to our local statistics, National Child Measurement Programme for obesity, that sort of thing, and tailored messaging around stats and figures for tooth extractions and oral health and that sort of thing. This again this was written into my bid, whereby I outlined the various sectors that we intended to work with, how they aligned with Food Plymouth, and this kind of shows our kind of targets and the types of settings we were hoping to work with as part of our campaign. Workplaces, food retailers, and the universities and sport and leisure were our main kind of areas where we were hoping to kind of target our work. And you'll see that most of the ambassadors came from these different sectors. So let's say a little bit, because I suppose we the degree of success. So I would say that yes, the campaign, our ambassador program has run successfully in Plymouth. So our actual campaign ran between September 2017 and August 2018. And in that time, we ran 4 ambassador training workshops. The first was in November, which was obviously because I work at the university, it was relatively easy for me to set up a training program for student nutritionists and student dietitians, and they were all very keen, and they've done some great work going out there and spreading the Sugar Smart word. The second workshop was in January 2018, which was loosely targeting communities, and the setting, we were given the Argyle Football Club as a venue for that, and that was a very interesting training program, because we had 16 from a range of different kind of community settings. We had the Devon and Cornwall Police, we had people who were kind of fitness instructors, and various people who had a kind of health improvement, and people working in school offices and that sort of thing. So it was an interesting mix, that second one. The third training was workplaces, targeting workplaces. Now we've got, through the public health team, and Neil and is here. Neil Minion, who's part of the public health team, runs the Workplace Wellbeing Champion program in Plymouth. So we tapped into that program, which is already in place, and added we've kind of bolted on some Sugar Smart messaging to the training that the Workplace Wellbeing Champions get. So that's a good way of thinking about the sustainability of the program and how it can be embedded in something that's already happening. And then the final, which was kind of not planned, but suddenly kind of occurred in July, and it was fantastic, was we have very strong close partnerships with Catered, who are the school meals service for Plymouth, who award-winning school meals service, who've done some amazing work around holiday hunger, but also sourcing locally and procurement, etc. And we had most of the school, the Catered school catering managers came to a training, so they've been trained as well. So 53 ambassadors trained in total, which was great. And I suppose what's interesting is, okay, what are they doing now? And I'll come on to challenges in a minute, but what we're doing going into the future, because the funded campaign is now finished, but So through the public health Thrive Plymouth Inequalities Programme, Sugar Smart is continuing into the future, and we intend to run another ambassador training programme. And so we're still operating, but on a smaller scale. There were a range of various activities that happened. The students were very active and did some work in kind of Sugar Smart work in Freshers Week, etc. We had an amazing community input from Vicky, who I think is here, Vicky Reeve. I think she was probably our gold star ambassador. She works for Wickets and at the Lord Taverners, and she's done some amazing work that is actually potentially rolling out some of the Sugar Smart ambassador work around Lord Taverners. So it shows that what starts local can actually potentially be rolled out wider as well. Food improvement work, we're continuing, as I say, through any kind of Food Plymouth related event, workplace wellbeing. We're trying to have a Sugar Smart presence wherever we possibly can. So it continues, and we just each year we will take stock. We've still got a very active steering group who are very keen to continue being involved, albeit at a slightly kind of lower level. So success in Plymouth. And Exeter, I feel, I'm not doing Exeter justice, because I feel, if I'm going to be totally honest, I think the campaign in Exeter has been an absolute phenomenon. And having one slide representing Exeter doesn't seem particularly fair, because they've done such amazing work. The work in Exeter around the Sugar Smart ambassadors, they've trained 81 ambassadors. So they've done, an amazing job training the ambassadors. But they've also launched 2 local campaigns in across Devon. So there was very much that sense that maybe being slightly more urban centric wasn't necessarily appropriate, and so that desire to kind of spread the campaign across Devon is kind of where we're at. So we're kind of trying to bill ourselves as Sugar Smart Devon rather than Sugar Smart Plymouth and Sugar Smart Exeter, but it's a bit more complicated than that. And they had an excellent newsletter. They've had loads of events in Plymouth, and they've engaged with over 75 organisations who have officially pledged to the campaign. So credit where credit's due. Tamsin's just sending a message. Tamsin has taken over from Ruby, who's also on maternity leave in Exeter. And I think, it's been such an amazing experience working with the Exeter team, and I look forward to continuing that. I know I'm running out of time. So the resources for Ambassador, most of our resources were signposting our ambassadors to the Sugar Smart website, the dashboard, which has loads of assets and information that organisations can tap into, and they're downloadable from the website. So that was one way of signposting. They obviously had local bespoke resources that we created, which in our team was Zoe, our coordinator in Plymouth, and myself. We tried to develop some local resources that were more bespoke. We created a Devon Sugar Smart Ambassador closed Facebook group. So anybody that attended our Sugar Smart Ambassador training was invited to attend the Facebook closed group, which became a kind of useful way of connecting, sharing resources, sharing ideas, fears, whatever. It's a really useful way. I mean, we did consider other options like WhatsApp face-to-face and that sort of thing, but with GDPR, we realised that the Facebook closed group was the most effective way of keeping in touch. So just to finish off with challenges then, because it's not all smooth sailing, this was a challenging programme to run, and it continues to be so. So, I mean, these are kind of common sense challenges. Time, everybody was busy, myself included. Everyone was busy, working schedules, shifts from different backgrounds, different experience, etc. So it was really difficult to meet everybody's needs consistently, and that's something we're continuing to work on. Occasionally we had situations whereby people were a bit uncertain of their role and where they draw the line in terms of if somebody asks you a really challenging question about, for example, diabetes or sugar, something a bit more nutrition professional oriented. It's about having the confidence to know where your limits are and accountability for kind of that safe practice element. So some had more a lack of confidence and maybe perhaps needed a little bit of a confidence boost and signpost. And that's where the Facebook group became really useful. We know in the media there's loads of nutribolics, as they're calling it, and that makes me laugh, that term, but there's a lot of information out there and there's information overload, and quite often you're seeing there's some conflicting sugar and health information which accentuates some of the confusion, and I think it was trying to kind of reconcile some of that and just give people the confidence to know that anything you do is going to be positive, but know your limits. And I guess, one of the things for me, and I'm a dietitian, so I know too well that oh, here come the sugar police, that tension is there, it's in the air, and it's, you just have to kind of manage that and consider how to manage that and just make people practice within what they're comfortable practicing within. And then, of course, limited resources. Yes, we got funding, but limited resources, limited time. A lot of we had some funding, obviously, in Plymouth to run our campaign, but a lot of the work, and I will say a lot of the work was voluntary, and we had a tremendous support network of volunteers and people that gave a lot of their time for not much reward. So success all round. Despite the challenges, I think we ran a successful campaign, and I'm happy to speak to anybody who's interested in running another campaign. And I noticed somebody from London said that they ran an ambassador program in London, and I know there are other areas that have run ambassador programs too. I'm more than happy to chat to anybody that might want to chat, so please do get in touch. I think that's me finished. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Claire. So we have a few minutes for questions for Claire. And as she said, there's been some fantastic examples in the wider Devon network, but also in Hackney that also ran successful ambassadors programs. So there's some really great examples out there. So please do, as a reminder, please do use the attendee chat to post your questions. We haven't gotten any in, but I have a question for you, Claire. So you mentioned that this is just a really wonderful local network, and it sounds like there's some, really motivated individuals. But can you touch a little bit on how do you keep them sort of engaged and supported? So, somebody's a Sugar Smart ambassador, they're probably doing it because they're passionate about the issue. But, is there anything else that you guys put in place to really support them and to kind of praise them?
It's a really, really valid point, Vera. And I think what we realised through, we set up this thing, and it's always really interesting if anyone's kind of applied for funding, you kind of spend all this time applying for funding, then suddenly you get the money and you're thinking, oh, now we've got to do the work. And it was very much a feel your way. And I think there's a lot of things we could have done better. Now, our Facebook group was okay, but not that many people engaged at any one time. But I think what we did do, and we did kind of re-engage ambassadors to remind them of events that we're running, and any events that we're running, we would, kind of email or contact them to ask if they were interested. I think we could potentially do a bit better at that. And I think we have to think of a best approach, because the Facebook group was okay, but like I said, only a small amount of the ambassadors actually engaged with that. So, and some of them just dropped off. I mean, students always drop off because they disappear and they graduate and they go off. So I would be interested to hear from any others about how best to engage, because I'm not really sure we did that particularly well, although we do still have a kind of thriving ambassador network, and it's just about keeping them informed on events and letting them know when events are happening and how they might get involved.
Thank you for that. And I think that's a really good point, because this kind of train the trainer and ambassador local champion approach is not unique to Sugar Smart. So actually, if there are others within the Sugar Smart or Sustainable Food Cities Network that have trialed these kinds of approaches and have found things that really keep people feeling like they're part of a movement, that they're supporting each other. Please do share. I think it is commendable that you guys that there was a celebration as well. I think even something like that is quite wonderful to bring people together because to me supporting these kinds of approaches, but also just in this wider work engaging local communities, it seems that supporting people, there's a social element to it as well, that they feel like the work that they're doing within their workplace or community is not isolated. So I feel like even things like networking opportunities, just a little party, can go a long way to keep people feeling like they're doing great work. We do have a question that's come in from Shayo in London. She was wondering, Shira was wondering, how was the recruitment process for the ambassador program like, and were there any difficulties in this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was just actually starting to type a response, but it's easier to say, Shayo, thank you. We found the recruitment process was really good, and the reason for that was that we were very clear on the settings we intended to target. And in fact, because we have such a strong network already in place through Food Plymouth, we had a way in, kind of the gatekeepers. I don't really like the term gatekeepers, but so we had quite discrete settings that we were targeting. And so, like, for example, the students, I just emailed all my students and all the nutrition students. That was fairly straightforward. And through the Workplace Wellbeing Champions, we had strong connections with the Workplace Wellbeing Champion Network through the public health team. And then similarly through the school meals, we used our key partners in order to recruit and send that message out there. Now, what was interesting was the community one, which was kind of sent out not so much through one individual, it was more sent out through our Food Plymouth e-bulletin, I believe. And we weren't sure how many would come forward for that, but we still ended up with really good numbers for that from a real range of communities. So I think if you've got a good network in place, it's about utilising those networks and using the connections that are already there to kind of spread that word, and just making sure you're very clear on which settings you're targeting and how to access individuals within those settings.
Thank you so much, Claire. I do have another question, but I will save it for later and just add it to the Q&A so that we can move on to having the Southwark team talk about Fizz Free February. Anybody else listening, if you do have any questions, please do continue adding them to the chat. We will log them and we will have our presenters answer them. Thanks so much. So without further ado, I will pass on the mic to Signe from Southwark Council, who will talk to us about Fizz Free February.
Thank you very much. Should we?
Oh, yes. Oh, good call. Let's load up the presentation. We do have the Fizz Free February team here with me at Sustain, if you're wondering. There we go. Okay.
Let's jump back to the start. So thank you very much, and hello everyone. So we're here today to give you a little bit of an overview into Fizz Free February, which is a campaign that we established last year. And to be quite honest, it was quite a speedy process. We had about 2 weeks to put together a campaign, but we will kind of take you through how we did that, and then what the plan is for this year when we're looking to expand it across the country and encourage others to kind of jump on board and support the campaign as well, because it's something we feel that is very easily applicable to other areas and not just in Southwark. And it's something that we hope you're very enthusiastic about. So just in terms of background, we have quite high levels of obesity in Southwark and general excess weight overall. Especially children, we see them quite increase in weight over their school course, and we have about 58.8% of adults that also have excess weight. So it's an issue that we feel quite strongly about, and we're working in various ways to kind of tackle that through training, healthcare professionals and so on. But we also felt like there was a broader public awareness campaign that was needed to kind of link excess sugar consumption with sort of increased weight due to that sort of lack of nutritional food and just an increase in overall consumption, but that tied with less physical activity. And you'll see some of the tables there about the current levels of obesity in Southwark. That's the most recent figures that we have. But then we have a target to reach by sort of 2020, a significant decrease, but you'll see we're moving towards reaching some of those goals, but it's something that we're continuously working on across the council. And essentially, Fizz Free February is a very easy campaign. It's designed to be a first step for people to kind of engage with a healthy diet and kind of how to sort of approach healthy eating in an accessible way. So we essentially challenge residents, young people as well as adults, to give up fizzy drinks for the entire month of February, and then encourage them to go for healthier alternatives such as water or milk. And there are various ways in which they can make that perhaps a bit more exciting and kind of get a bit of flavour in there. It's something that as a council we can promote in our various channels, but it's also something we can encourage businesses in our borough to take up and promote, as well as individuals to do that on an individual basis. The kind of key messages are threefold, which is kind of staying healthy, or if you're looking at an older audience, we kind of use losing weight as an argument, but it's primarily around staying healthy, improving oral health, and then saving money as well, because a lot of the alternatives such as water is free and it doesn't cost any money. And then it's kind of about kind of targeting them through social media, but it's something that will be matched by sort of offline activity. But the primary focus for this campaign was to kind of engage residents on social media. So the first step was, after we've kind of developed the key messages, we started looking at what kind of visual profile to use and develop artwork accordingly. And the kind of main concept split down into two primary audiences. One that was more sort of child-friendly, that you can use in educational settings and schools, and then one that you can have for sort of wider audiences and adults as well. So you can kind of see the two posters there on the presentation, and we feel like it's a concept that's worked well this year as well. So that is a sort of artwork that will kind of carry on as the campaign evolves this year. And we also developed alongside that other assets that could be used. So we developed a video for social media, and as well as animations, so GIF files and banners as well, that can kind of help sort of increase the visibility on social media. And my colleague Justin will go through some of those materials in greater detail in just a minute. And that kind of essentially boils down to what we essentially did last year, which was, as I said, primarily online focused and kind of encouraging people to give up fizzy drinks and kind of pledge online and on our website to go fizz free, to kind of get that visibility and start that dialogue with our residents. And I mean, I think it's fair to say that it's one of the most successful campaigns we've had on social media as a council. It generated a lot of enthusiasm and interest, something that we're very keen on building on this year. And it was just phenomenal, the kind of pickup it had, not just within the borough, but I think also amongst other organisations across the country. And we really started feeling like there was a lot of appetite to develop this further. And you'll see some of the examples there, including Sugar Smart on your screens, but it was really heartwarming to see that. And it even meant that, some of the schools as well, Coburg, that's kind of pictured on your presentations, picked it up, and they really sort of embraced the concept and engaged their children in what it means kind of giving up fizzy drinks. Why is that not necessarily as good as water or milk? And there was so much enthusiasm visiting them as well, and they had so many ideas that how they can develop it this year when they're running it again. But it was a very good result for us, and I think considering the short lead-in time that we had, we're very pleased with how the campaign went. And now I'll hand over to my colleague Justin.
Hi, Justin here, another one of the Fizz Free team. So, as Signe mentioned, we started the campaign last year, so we have the opportunity to try and learn some of the lessons and make the campaign even better this year. So what we do now, as Signe mentioned, there was a sort of huge interest on social media, and more so than most of the other council campaigns. We also had no sort of negative media coverage. We wouldn't necessarily take that as, you know, sort of certainty. The same thing will happen this year in terms of the coverage. Already the campaign is getting a lot more traction than last year, and it's sort of creating a healthy debate around some of the messages. We know industry professionals, particularly those obviously from the health and the oral health sector, were very supportive of the campaign, and also again this year. I think being here today is testament that the campaign is sort of generating a lot of interest beyond Southwark's borders. What started as a sort of Southwark only campaign pretty much last year is sort of, I guess, on the cusp of going national, which is great. We know schools are willing to take the campaign on. Signe mentioned the videos. We know from some of our sort of data that the videos had very good recall value. And I guess the one sort of, sort of constructive sort of almost criticism of ourselves was that although we know the campaign had huge reach and there was a lot of sort of appetite for the campaign, we didn't last year really have the sort of data to sort of understand how many people actually went Fizz Free and how many people actually changed their behaviour, and that's something we're really looking to sort of improve on a bit this year. So what's happening this year? I think in summary, we're on course for a much sort of bigger and better campaign. We're looking forward to a parliamentary launch on 29th of January. So our local MP in Southwark, one of the local MPs, I should say, Helen Hayes, will be hosting that. Tom Watson, the Deputy Labour leader, will be speaking, along with representatives from Sustain and the British Dental Association. So we have support from Sustain this year, which is brilliant, and why we're here, and that's sort of helping the campaign to go national. We already have more interest from business, more interest from politicians, more interest from media, other councils, other local organisations, industry bodies. So that's all great. And also we're still at an early stage, but we already know more schools are looking to take the campaign on. So yeah, in summary, at Southwark, we're looking for a bigger and better campaign. And as I mentioned previously, we're hoping to have evidence of more people actually changing their behaviour. So just a few thoughts on running the campaign. I think I should say at this point, if you don't know, there's a sort of campaign guidance document which is on the Sustain website alongside some materials you can download. I think we probably should have put the web address in the presentation, but we can send that round afterwards.
We can send that round afterwards, and yeah, all of the documents are on the SugarSmart website, and they're actually accessible to download whether you're part of the campaign or not.
Yeah. Thanks, Vera. So yeah, what follows, I guess, is a summary of some of that. So we have some health-related messages, and I guess they're really about sort of underpinning the campaign. And these are all sort of sourced bits of data. As you can see there, you could save up to £438 a year if you stop drinking one bottle of soft drink per day for a year. Just one can, 330 millilitre can of fizzy drink could add over a stone of weight gain per year. And tooth decay is the leading cause of hospitalisation among 5 to 9-year-olds in the UK. So they're really the sort of underpinning health-related messages. We just have some ideas about the sort of main call to action messages. These are just our ideas. If you're running a campaign, you might have your own and better ideas, but we're talking about things like make your home a fizz-free zone, forget fizzy drinks this February. Could you go the whole month without fizzy drinks? Take the fizz-free challenges, and so on. I think what we do ask is that where possible on social media, everyone sort of uses the Go Fizz-Free hashtag. That sort of gives us a bit of potential to sort of measure it nationally, how many people are engaging. But they're just some ideas. Wrong button, sorry. So we have lots of materials and visuals you can use. These are all available to download or available from us at Southwark Council. So the sort of the can in the middle of that image, we're sort of making that the centerpiece of the campaign. And then sort of there are various graphics. So you can sort of see in the top left, there's a sort of there's a tooth and a purse and some scales. They're the sort of child-friendly graphics. We have in the top right sort of Twitter and Facebook banners. It's not very clear on this, but on the bottom right there, that's actually a poster. And we have that in PDF and InDesign format, and it's got some sort of potential for anyone to customize it. So there's a sort of area at the bottom of the poster where organisations and councils can add their own logos and their own call to action messages. So in summary, these are all available. They're all freely available. We do have a sort of subtle reference to Southwark Council on the can, and sort of if people are doing press releases or web pages, we're sort of politely asking for a subtle mention to Southwark running the campaign first in 2018. But other than that, you're free to go with it as you please and add your own logos. I mentioned before, we think an important part of the campaign is actually not just getting great traction, but actually securing behaviour change. That's the sort of heart of it for Southwark Council. We want, Signe mentioned some of our sort of obesity statistics, and particularly around children and young people, and ultimately that's why we're doing the campaign. So, we have a pledge form on our website, which we're encouraging residents to sort of commit to go fizz-free, and to sort of for them to give us permission to go back to them at the end of the campaign and sort of say, how did you get on? Did you go fizz-free? Will it sort of change your sort of behaviour moving forward? And we've also developed a little calendar for schools on the right, where children can sort of tick off each day they've gone fizz-free. So I'd encourage anyone who's running the campaign not just to promote the messaging on social media, but to think of ways where you can actually sort of get some data and feedback about what impact it's having in your area. And the final slide for me is just really about getting businesses on board. There are lots of options for businesses. They can sort of display materials around offices. Sorry, I should say this is sort of businesses and organisations. They can examine what provisions they have in place to support their staff to go fizz-free, showcase healthy alternatives that are in place, maybe run competitions to see who can go without fizzy drinks for the whole month, and also retweet the campaign. But I think it's important to sort of echo what was said earlier. Businesses can support Fizz-Free by signing up sort of on the Sugar Smart website, and to sign up, excuse me, Vera, if I get this wrong, but sort of by committing to doing some of the Fizz-Free elements, that's sort of tying in with the sort of becoming a Sugar Smart organisation. So you can sort of take on this Fizz-Free campaign to tie in with a Sugar Smart goal. Thank you, Anna Gillins, for your positive feedback on the resources. We like them too. And I think that's all I've got to say. My email address isn't on here, but that's the sort of backup for if you're not getting what you need from the Sugar Smart website. I'm sure you will, but my email address is justin.ashworth@southwark.gov.uk. So if you have any issues, by all means email me. I think that's all from us, but if you run the campaign, good luck, and we'd love to hear how you get on.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, just to reiterate, the resources are available on the Sugar Smart website. So we're hosting them for Southwark and, of course, for anybody within the wider Sugar Smart and Sustainable Food Cities network. One of the documents there is a guide for communications campaigns, and that's mainly for local authorities or food partnerships who will be promoting this area wide, but also organizations getting involved. And that document does have Justin's information in there. So if you wanted to get higher res visual elements, you can certainly do that. But there's loads of other stuff. And as Justin mentioned, and as I wanted to reiterate, I touched on it earlier in my introduction, but what we did at Sugar Smart is we looked at which actions within the Sugar Smart framework really tie in well with Fizz Free February, and we highlighted those. So whether or not your organization has already done those actions, so for example, promoting water as the best, freest, healthiest choice for hydration, you can really use campaigns such as Fizz Free February to stimulate those kinds of actions within your organization, or if you're running a campaign to really get organizations and other settings on board to do this. So I think that's really an important takeaway, that this can be a fantastic way to get individuals involved, to get them doing something, trying something new. But this is also a fantastic opportunity to get organizations, settings such as schools involved, to promote this. And it might be the first thing that they do on their journey to become more healthier settings and to start transforming their food environment. So it would be great to have a brief Q&A. I know that we're reaching 3:15. We do have this going until 3:30. So hopefully some of you guys can still stick around. Do share your questions. We have a question from Claire in London, and she wants to know if there are any resources available for the Sugar Smart program for early years. Well, good question. We have one of the sector categories is primary schools and early year settings. So if you register as a setting or organization within that sector, so for example, if you're part of a children's center or another early year setting, or even our childminder, and certainly if you're part of a primary school, there's a number of resources in the dashboard specific for that. And of course, as you saw with Fizz Free February, some of the resources are tailored for schools and early year settings, especially the cute little images. So yeah, and I guess I actually had a question, because I'm thinking about, we brought together two different approaches towards local engagement. So reaching individuals that might be harder to reach, but also engaging organizations and settings, and really becoming a bit more active on this issue. And I do kind of feel like it ties in really well together. So I was thinking, well, this is something Sugar Smart ambassadors can get involved in. They can take the challenge, but they can also then actually promote this within their community group, within their workplace. For example, the catering managers in Plymouth can promote this within their schools to be real champions for it. But I wanted to ask you guys at Southwark a question. If it kind of goes the other way, if were there any individuals or perhaps even settings that got involved last year to take the challenge, and I guess more individuals that took the challenge that then were so inspired that they're really promoting the campaign and recruiting more people to take the challenge this year? Sorry to put you on the spot if you don't have examples like that. I'm just wondering.
Well, I think, for full transparency, as we mentioned earlier, it was a very quick turnaround last year. And, that meant that there wasn't that much. But we did see a lot of traction amongst the oral health professionals. A lot of dentists and dental hygienists really took it on. And we could see people on social media taking the Fizz Free messages and putting that alongside existing campaigns such as Change for Life and so on when they went to oral health conferences and putting that up on display boards. So within Southwark, we have some enthusiastic organisations that are doing it again, but I would say that they're probably this year going above and beyond and probably looking more enthusiastically at it. But we could see outside of Southwark that really sort of taking hold.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of comes out this year. And also, I suppose it's worth mentioning, if you're running the campaign locally, you really want to be able to stay in touch with those that take the challenge. It might be worth taking sort of Southwark's lead and setting up a pledge page or a survey that you can send out. So something for people, you won't be able to reach everybody who's taking part, of course, but it might be a really great way to capture not just the personal experiences, but also the contact details of people taking part who may well be your local community champions on these messages moving forward.
And making sure you get the right permission to follow up. So just GDPR and all that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always a GDPR.
Yeah,
definitely. Cool. There's another question that's come from Shay in London. Does anyone have experience in engaging parents carers through school settings? And if so, how did you find the experience? So I think it's a really good question. We have some examples within the Sugar Smart network. We can elaborate a little bit more in the documentation that we send after today. But certainly, I think some of the schools that I highlighted earlier doing really interesting kind of like whole school approaches to engagement on sugar reduction. So I think there's quite a few school settings that have done quite a bit to get parents on board. One of my favorite examples is from the school in Glasgow, who they really took a whole school approach. I mean, they involved the parent, the PTA network, which I think was quite commendable, to really get parents on board with the message to actually do things differently. But also through promoting the Change for Life food scanner app as part of their Sugar Smart work. The kids got really on board with it, and quite a few were saying that this is something they now do with their parents and actually enjoying food shopping experience more because they're really getting interested in the food that their family is purchasing. Just to mention really quickly, our next webinar with Sustainable Food Cities is going to focus on engaging, is focusing on sugar reduction in schools. So I think that will be a fantastic place to go into this a bit more. Did you guys have anything to add on this? Or?
Some experience. So I'm still quite new to Southwark Council. I came from Lewisham Council, and my experience there with sort of from a marketing perspective, engaging with schools, it's really about sort of convincing a head teacher or a key teacher of what you're trying to achieve. They would have a lot more resonance with the parents than I would as a sort of marketeer from a local council. So we had some success once we'd sort of convinced a head teacher of what we wanted to do. So I was just going to, add my little bit of experience.
We have another question actually that does come up. Maybe we'll wrap it up at, perhaps after this question. Do send in questions if you have any, please, and we'll do make sure to answer them in full. But this is a question actually about sweeteners and just that a lot of fizzy drinks contain artificial sweeteners. And I don't know if you guys have anything to add on that, or
I think one of the things is that there's still, I think, an overall lacking consensus on the kind of role of sweeteners. I think generally because of that and the fact that we want people to go entirely off fizzy drinks for a range of health reasons, we haven't sort of taken a position as a campaign on artificial sweeteners or artificial sugars because it's about reducing sugar consumption overall. But I think the latest evidence is not conclusive in that there's not been kind of a systemic review on it yet, but I understand that it's something that's being looked at internationally.
And we can, as part of this, we can share sort of, I guess, the Sugar Smart stance on this question. We're quite keen for there to be more research into this, but I think the main takeaway is that, and this is the Sugar Smart view on it, is that switching to artificially sweetened or even stevia sweetened fizzy drinks can be a good short-term measure, especially if somebody is above a healthy weight, if they're consuming a lot of fizzy drinks, if they're sort of starting themselves on that journey. But really, in the long term, it's really key for us to shift our kind of daily consumption of sweet-tasting foods and drinks, and to get used to really treating these things really as treats rather than part of everyday consumption. And unfortunately, sweet-tasting drinks that are sugar-free, they're still kind of keeping our craving for sweet-tasting foods. And of course, there's still those biscuits at the end of the day. So we do encourage people to think a bit holistically. And of course, carbonated drinks overconsumption, especially acidic carbonated drinks, they still have an impact on dental health. So there's really benefits to support people to really consume less of both and really get especially kids, to get them more excited about drinking water. So this is a really great opportunity, but we've left it really open to local campaigns, whether they want to focus just on sugary fizzy drinks or kind of go more broadly. But we'll share kind of the Sugar Smart stance on that if other local campaigns and organizations want to sort of take that lead. Wonderful. So I think here we'll wrap it up. Again, thank you so much to everybody who joined us today. If you have any questions at all, please do email them. My email address, I will load it up right now, but definitely do get in touch. As we said, if you are looking to, as part of your local authority, as part of your local Sugar Smart campaign, or as part of your Sustainable Food Cities network in your local area, if you are planning to get involved in Sugar Smart, to get involved in Sugar Smart, to do a Sugar Smart Ambassadors program, if you're interested in this, or if you are interested in taking part in Fizz Free February, do get in touch with us and let us know. Please do register on the website. This is really the best way for us to support you. And yeah, good luck with your sugar reduction, healthy eating work going forward. Thank you so much, everybody.